What's going on, guys? This is Sean. I am back again with part 3 of my Iron Man build. In this video, we are going to focus on the arm. Now, I did make this Iron Man to fit someone that was a little bit taller than me, but I went ahead and tried it on for you guys just so I can show you guys how it looks like. So let's get started. And here is all the pieces for my forearm. I've already got everything cut out in the angles where it needs to be. I'm going to go through and apply contact cement on all my pieces. This is the lower forearm and this is the upper forearm pieces. I'm going to start by attaching the hand guard thingy that attaches to the lower forearm. And I did cut the connecting edges in an inward angle. That way it bevels in a little bit more. And it should look something like this when I'm done. And before I go and attach it to the lower forearm, I'm going to connect the center line edges together, just like that. When I say center line edges, I mean the outer line edge, which when you glue them back together, they become the center line edge. And it should look something like that. And then I'm going to glue the hand guard thingy on there. Now, the placement of this piece will vary between different persons and the length of their arms, so you might want to have everything glued together before you glue that piece down. And now I'm going to glue the rest of the upper forearm together. Now, I did cut all the connecting edges of almost all the pieces here in an inward angle because I do want it to have a harder bevel than my other pieces where I only cut one side straight and the other side in an inward beveled angle. But as for the outer edges where they don't actually connect to each other, I did cut that in an outward angle. This will give it a staggering effect, but you'll see here in a little bit as soon as I pop the lower forearm in its place. Right now I'm attaching the last piece of the upper forearm, which is actually the front part of the arm. And I'm using 8mm EVA foam that I picked up from TNT Cosplay Supply. I really like using their foam because it's smooth on both sides. So in case you're wondering where I get my foam, that's where I get it from. So far, I am just about done putting my upper forearm pieces together. I am putting it together and carefully making sure all my edges are nice and smooth. Although I feel like I may need to go back and do some sanding, which I don't like doing, but gonna have to be done. And now I'm gonna place the lower forearm into the upper forearm piece. I'm using an imaginary invisible center line, which I should have marked, but I don't. But I'm just gonna go ahead and wing it and pop the lower forearm in place. And yeah, it looks pretty legit to me. Now it's time for me to glue the elbow piece on there. Now, I thought I had hit the record button when I assembled the elbow piece, but you get the idea. It should look something like this. And when I glue the elbow piece to the forearm, I want to glue it towards the front just a little bit. That way it kind of evens out. So far, this is what the forearm is looking like. Let's move along to working on the bicep guard. I'm going to cut this line straight, and then I'm going to cut this one in an inward angle. That way, when I glue it together, it's going to give me this bevel look. And here is the front part of the bicep guard. And I'm going to cut that one in an inward angle too. So you'll see here in a little bit when I start to assemble everything, how everything sort of comes together. And this line was also cut in an inward angle. There's another shot of me cutting the back half of the bicep guard. Now, I decided to make the bicep guard one big piece. That way it would be easier to manage all these pieces. And you're probably thinking, Sean, this doesn't even look like anything that's going to look like a bicep guard. But it will, trust me. Now, here are all the pieces that I'm going to need for the bicep guard already cut out. I'm going to take my paper template and I'm going to cut out some patterns that are within patterns, and I'm going to transfer these patterns over to my EVA foam, which I've already cut out. And this will make things a whole lot easier because I'm going to go back through and burn all these details in with a wood burner. And now that I have all my lines drawn out, it's time to apply glue to all my pieces. And I want to make sure I get all the pieces that will need the contact cement, like this little corner right here. And about 5 to 10 minutes later, all my glue is dried to a tack. It's time to assemble everything. I'm going to start off by gluing this little pizza shaped thing together, just like that. This is actually going to be the center line of the back of the bicep guard, and it should look something like this. And then I'm going to connect the center line. Now if you're building this and it becomes a little too small for you, then you can actually use some thinner to loosen up the glue, spread it open just a little bit, and then you can insert like a little spacer depending on the width of your arm. But this one right here seems to fit my arm pretty well, so I'm just gonna stick with it. Now that the back center line is all glued in place, it's time to stick this piece right here. This one is a little tricky because your corners are like all the way in there, but if you just fiddle around with it, it'll just pop into place just like that. Now I did use a thinner foam for this piece right here just because I wanted it to stagger just a little bit, but it didn't really make that much of a difference, so I guess it wouldn't have hurt if I just made everything the same thickness. But yeah, it does look like I will need to go back and do some sanding and probably fill in some gaps with some caulking, but oh well, we'll get to it. Now it's time to glue the front center of the bicep guard. I'm going to carefully make sure all my lines and surfaces are really nice and smooth, because that's the idea, right? I mean, you want everything to look nice and clean. And once I get all that glued together, it's time to connect this final little piece right here, and that pretty much completes the assembling of the bicep guard. I'll go back and burn in the lines a little bit later on. Now I'm going to work on the shoulder piece. Here are the patterns for the shoulder piece. It's like 2 pieces, but you have to glue them together. I'm drawing in some lines for some V-groove undercuts. This will give me this really cool looking bevel edge that I like so much. Now it's time to go in and apply all my contact cement. And this corner right here, what I usually do is I'll fold the foam in half and then apply my contact cement. I want to make sure I get it into all the nooks and crannies. Now that all my glue is dry to attack, it's time to attach all my pieces together accordingly. Now this part is the upper part of the shoulder piece. You can actually make it 2 pieces, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the upper shoulder piece and the lower shoulder piece together, and then I'm going to glue those to the bicep guard. I'm just trying to simplify this build, but you can experiment on how you want to assemble them. I'm going to now glue the undercuts together, which is going to give me this really cool bevel thing, but I need to round this off. Now what I like to do rounding this off is I like to heat up both sides and then put it on top of this PVC pipe, which is a 4-inch PVC pipe and a cap. Now you can actually use a ball or a baseball. I don't know about a baseball, it's got those stitches on there, but you kind of get the idea where I'm going with it. And now I'm going to apply glue onto certain areas because I don't want to glue the whole entire thing down, just in case I need to take this thing back apart and make some adjustments, because it might fit me but it won't fit the guy who's actually going to be wearing this. Now I'm going to carefully position these 2 pieces together and carefully connect these corners where I'm thinking that it should look. Now I'm just eyeballing this and I'm basically winging it until I can get it all fitted to the person who's actually going to be wearing this, but I'm just placing it all together right now just so that I can eliminate all these excess pieces. But so far it's looking pretty groovy, and then I'm going to just glue it onto the bicep guard right up front and in the back. Now the placement of the shoulder onto these bicep guard does vary depending on the length of the person's arm. Like I said before, this right here would actually fit me, but you can actually move the shoulder pieces up a little bit higher. You can actually put some hinge or something, but I just find it easier for me to do it this way for storage purpose. And yeah, so far it's looking pretty legit and I'm pretty happy with it. Now I'm going to go in and draw in the missing lines for the bicep guard, and that one looks kind of crooked. but if I draw it thick enough, it might look straighter. Yeah. And now it's time to go in there and add in the final detail with my wood burner. Now some people have asked me if they can use a solder iron to burn in these lines, and I think you can. I've never tried it before, but the reason why I like using the wood burner, it's got a sharp tip, not a pointy tip, but it's got like a V-shaped tip that helps me draw a straighter line when I'm burning these foam pieces. Now I have put solder iron tips onto my wood burner, so I assume it can work the other way around too. So if you have a soldering iron and you just want to buy wood burner tip, then let me know how it works out, because I haven't tried it the other way around. Well, alrighty, now this is what my arm is looking like so far. I will need to go back through and do some sanding and some fitting, but I'll save that for another video. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Well, this just about wraps it up for the arm section of my Iron Man build. Hit that like button if you feel like you got something out of this video. And if you're into this kind of stuff, I mean, if that's what you're really into, then links will be in the description down below where you can build your own Iron Mans. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And follow me on all my social network. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. And I guess that's it for this video. I'll see y'all in the next one.